right, good evening, everyone. This meeting is being held in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act and is open to the media and public. Notices were duly posted and the meeting was advertised in the Hunterdon County Democrat and Courier News. Formal action may be taken. Can I get a roll call, please?
Ms. Beckman.
I am here.
Ms. Stewart.
Here.
Speech. Here. Mrs. Podgorski.
Here.
Mr. Wallace. Ms. Wolf.
Here.
Mr. Zwerling. Dr. Feliciella.
Here.
Sample.
Please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have a superintendent's report.
Thank you. Matt, did you? Good evening, everyone. So, as Matt brings up our district goals presentation, tonight will be a night of goals. I'll start under my superintendent's report talking about district goals, and we've invited quite a number from the New Jersey School Boards Association to talk about goals specific to the Board of Education. So as we begin tonight, we'll talk about district goals, and as we do, I know Ms. Thornton, you'll hear our presentation, and we're going to help craft some board goals as well tonight. Hey, Eric, hey, Tom. So tonight's presentation on district goals will include our mission along our strategic goals, our specific planned actions that we have outlined to achieve those goals by building and district-wide, the data we plan to collect in terms of achieving our goals, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some additional focus areas for the 22 and 23 school year beyond our strategic goals that include employee retention and relations and recruitment, as well as academic achievement. So our mission and goals, what do we hope to achieve? I like this quote from Andrew Carnegie that talks about setting our goals that commands our thoughts, liberates our energy, and inspires hope. Our strategic plan really speaks to this, that we're thoughtful and deliberate about our goals, that inspires hope, and inspires us to make change within our school. Our mission statement reads, we empower members of our community to lead purposeful lives with integrity, to cultivate a spirit of discovery, and to embrace connections in our diverse global society. This is our mission statement that was developed several years ago, along with 3 strategic goals. The first, inquisitive learning. Our goal is to create and establish an inquiry-based framework that values an interest-driven learning environment. Learners will individually and collaboratively focus on identifying, analyzing, and solving problems as inquisitive members. So this is really focusing on inquiry and promoting student inquiry, as well as staff. Partnerships. We seek to establish partnerships that foster meaningful educational opportunities on a local, regional, and global scale to prepare all learners to become engaged and productive citizens, to collaborate in their real-world connections. So this is where we see evidence from the past couple of years of virtual field trips, guest presenters, and local and community experts in helping students generate their inquiry projects. And then finally, social awareness. Our learners will feel connected, valued, and secure in digital and non-digital learning environments cultivated by a shared sense of community. Every individual will develop skills that promote an awareness of the self and others, as well as the environment, including to the ability to understand decisions. This is where we really focus on social emotional learning. This is where we achieved our silver certification for Sustainable Jersey, which includes digital citizenship and the Digital Star. This is where we piloted our VEDM curriculum last year. And this is where we started some of our work with diversity, equity, inclusion last year. So we're going to continue this year. You'll notice this year that some things are going to take us to the next level, that we've got some action steps that are going to move our district forward in terms of these three goals. You'll also notice that we're in year 3 of our strategic plan. So you'll notice a lot more maintaining and sustaining some of the goals that we've already set out to achieve. And really now it's just making it part of the culture or the fabric of who we are as a school district. So let's talk first about inquisitive learning. Inquisitive learning, this is our area of focus that where we're promoting inquiry-led student interest projects, staff inquiry projects, as well as we're beginning to start using our inquisitive learning mindset with staff to dive deep into student achievement data, which I'll talk about a little bit later, to plan effective and comprehensive instruction, particularly in the areas of math, language arts, and science. So at White House and Three Bridges, we're going to continue to implement the administration of interest inventories. We're going to continue the third grade inquiry projects, rolling that into language arts instruction. And this year, we developed over the summer a data conversation guide to use for the teachers to use when looking at data and planning for instruction. At Hollenbrook this year, we're going to continue implementing interest inventories. This year will be a big year for the 5th grade team to start working on inquiry projects with their students. And once again, we have this data conversation guide that's going to lead teachers through looking at data in math, language arts. At RMS, we're really working toward developing a capstone project for 8th graders before they leave ready to middle school that will incorporate some level of service or partnership with a member of our community. We're going to infuse inquiry into our new electives like civics and computer science. And again, you'll see it one more time with that data conversation guide as well. I'll make a note too under inquisitive learning. The Ed Tech committee knows that we've adopted a new social studies curricular standards as well as program that's literally called Inquiry Ed, right? So it's an inquiry-based social studies program. And we did that purposefully and deliberately because it does achieve our inquiry learning goals. So part of what we're going to do this year too is develop a K-5 inquiry framework for social studies education. Throughout the district, we're going to offer professional learning opportunities. We're going to use an inquiry consultant to help us dive deeper into different levels of questioning, and that consultant help us work on the data conversation guide. Partnerships, our second goal. For this year, we're going to identify and use field trips that enhance the curriculum at White House, Three Bridges, Hollenbrook, and RMS. Some of the virtual field trips you'll see for agenda tonight. We're also going to identify other opportunities for partnerships and service throughout the district. I know that RMS is going to have a focus on working with community-based organizations to begin infusing those partnerships and services. We are still working on it. It was our goal last year. We're going to carry it into this year. We're still working on partnerships, virtual field trips, and sustainability education curricular documents that are going to be attachments or addenda to the curriculum. Those are coming soon. We're going to revisit the curated bank with partnerships and identify areas where partnerships and field trips can be connected with the curriculum more so than we have in the past. And finally, social awareness. We are going to implement the BOE curriculum as part of our school counselor as well as health curriculum. We're going to continue enhancing the bucket filling program at Three Bridges and White House. And we're going to sustain our programs that gave us the honor of having the Silver Award for Sustainable Jersey, as well as our great insurance. The VEDM curriculum will sustain its way through Hollenbrook in the 5th grade, where we piloted last year, and again, sustaining the Jersey programs. At RMS, there's going to be a lot of work in relation to social awareness. We still have our partnership with Hunter Behavioral Health. We have the Child Assault Prevention Program that we've had for the past couple of years. The VEDM curriculum, the faculty over at RMS are doing a book study on leader framework, and again, our Sustainable Jersey programs. We're going to continue throughout the district our SEL podcasts and videos. And we started our second year of looking at diversity, equity, and inclusion as a leadership team and teacher for each building has attended the meeting back in August, and we're going to steps. So how will we know what our goals are achieved? There will be projects completed or deliverables. We'll have banks of resources, handbooks, professional development offerings, protocols, and curricular documents. We survey our staff often and receive their feedback, particularly professional development opportunities. Meeting minutes or notes from faculty meetings, professional development meetings, planning time meetings, any curricular revisions that come in front of the Board of Education. Our student growth objectives are a way for us to also measure how teachers are working with students on specific objectives that they have in the classroom related to math and charts. I mentioned earlier, so this is kind of a side to our strategic work, and this is really going to be a focus of mine for this year, which is going to be personnel recruitment and retention. We've talked a lot about, there's been a lot of press about the teacher shortage, the bus driver shortage, and this is an area of focus for us. We know that we've had some attrition in our staff, and we know that we need to pay some attention to recruitment and retention. So we're going to develop a committee to collect employee feedback, identify reasons for employee retention, enhance our employment recruitment efforts, and design ways to brand or market our organization. And this will be launched relatively soon. I attended my first workshop today with the Society for Human Resources Management about talent acquisition. And it was really interesting, and I think I'm the only educator actually on the Zoom call, which is unique. But this will be a focus of ours for the school year. When we measure retention and recruitment, we're looking at retention data, survey data, and other long-term measures. I learned about some of these today, like time to fill positions is a measure, the number of applicants you get for given positions, as well as the candidate experience as they go through the application process. And finally, and really critically this year, we're going to also focus on academic achievement. And this will be an embedded focal point across all buildings and across the district this year. And why? We have the return of New Jersey student learning assessment data. We'll be reporting that out at the next Board of Education meeting. This is the assessment that students took last year in the spring. So we have some great data from the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment. We've also incorporated iReady, which is our internal diagnostic data tool in both language arts and math. And we have really robust data in terms of student achievement and student growth. And we know that we need to continue the narrowing of learning gaps due to COVID, the interrupted instruction that's been experienced over the past couple of years. And lastly, that data conversation guide that I mentioned a couple times. Over the summer, we used our inquiry consultant to really help us frame how teachers can look at data through the lens of their own inquiry. And we developed our own internal document called a data conversation guide to guide a conversation between a teacher and her colleagues, a teacher and a principal, among principals and administrators, to look at data and what data tells us. Much more will come in regard to academic achievement at the October board meeting, because that's where our supervisors and principals will be in attendance to talk about what the data from the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment, the WIDA access for Ls, and the dynamic learning maps, what that tells us about our students, their achievement, and our trajectory. And we'll also outline some plans for this year, district-wide in each building. We'll talk a little bit about some focal points in terms of academic achievement. So I know that was quick, but those are some focal areas for our goals for this year. Again, related to the strategic plan, but then a couple of other focal areas just, given the focus on academics now that we're in a so post-pandemic world, and then the focus point on staff recruitment and retention. So I'll open up to any questions from members of the board.
If I don't know this, what's the AVITM curriculum? What is that?
So the AVITM was a mental health curricular pilot where we took sample activities from AVITM means, by the way, I got your back. It's a program that we piloted last year, certain sample lessons in grades 2, 5, and 8. And you might recall Dr. Higgins came to the board meeting with students from second grade last year where they did some activities. And she presented those activities to the board last year. That's a supplemental resource that's included in our health curriculum document.
It's also a really nice video, maybe still around if Randy went to see it.
Yes.
The video shared with
Oh, okay,
the
yeah,
kids did.
Oh, yeah, Dr. Higgins has the video that we shared about
Yeah.
some of the learning that the kids had from last year. Great question.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
What happened? I know at some point I heard talk about the Start Strong assessment coming back. What was the latest update on that?
It's back.
Okay.
It is back.
Okay.
I know I don't want to look at the teachers and I think they're.
It's
It's back and it might be here to stay. But the Commissioner of Education is requiring that all districts administer the Start Strong assessment.
I know there was talk of allowing districts to use their own assessment, but that's no longer.
Yeah, the Hunterdon County superintendents began to work on a letter to the commissioner, making that request that if we have our own internal assessments, that we would be permitted to use them. My opinion is that those assessments are much more useful for us than a state assessment, but nevertheless, we will administer.
So what does that mean for us and for our teachers? Does that mean we will be doing our own assessments that we always do and do the Start Strong in addition to that?
That's correct.
Okay.
I don't want to abandon, and I don't know if the teachers or the supervisor who want to abandon the iReady data, diagnostic data, because it does give us a really good focal point for students beginning of the year, mid-year, and end of the year, and it tracks student growth and progress over the course of the year. I think it's a powerful tool.
And then I just had one additional comment. I think that on the one slide you had about social awareness, I think that the progress towards the sustainable Jersey silver status for all of our schools is a really wonderful thing. I would really like to see that remain under the district as well. I saw it under all the schools but not under the district, but I know that there's progress that we would like to be made. Thinking about the finance committee, talking about solar expansion and that kind of thing. I just, my comment is I'd like to see that under the district as well.
Understood. And I think it naturally fits there, but yes, could have just been me omitting it by accident from that one slide.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I like the additional focus on the personnel goals. I think that's important. I appreciate that.
Sure. And I think in a moment too, Gwen will talk in a moment about sort of things that are district goals and sort of district owned superintendent goals, which part of my focus is really the staffing issue and then your board goals, right? Things that the board will own throughout the school year as well.
I have a question.
Yeah, Joe.
Yeah, first I want to echo Carol's comments. I'm excited about the support for the teachers and the retention and the recruitment. That's incredibly important. And then a couple questions on the focus on academic achievement.
Sure.
For the iReady data, will the board be presented some of that data this year? And when can we expect kind of updates on that?
I talked to the supervisors and you're going to get a lot of really detailed data through NJSLA as well. We have growth data from iReady that I talked to the supervisors of incorporating that into the full board presentation for October. And there are, I don't want to misspeak, but I know that there's end of the year reports, but because we rolled over to the new year, I don't know if we can go back and get those snapshots, but I know that there's some things that we have that we can share. But the short answer is yes. In some way, shape, or form, you'll see the iReady growth that was made over the course of the year last year as part of the presentation next month.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Because last year was kind of our first year of having it through the whole year, or
Kind of.
Kind of.
So, right, like with COVID, we adopted the math program, I want to say in 2019. And that's when we started using it for math. Last year was the first year, you're correct, that we used it for math and language arts as well. This year will be that last year is a baseline. I would call it a baseline. Same thing with NJSLA. I would call it a new baseline. But yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. And talking about continued narrowing of learning gaps due to COVID, are there specifics that the district is doing above and beyond what we usually do to support students that focus on that goal?
We have in the past, so we've used some of our federal grant funding to provide virtual homework help, virtual tutoring, as well as the Litera online individual tutoring literacy program as well. So we have done all of that above and beyond over the course of the year last year. Right now, we're in the process of evaluating the effectiveness of some of those programs, as well as the attendance of some of those programs, both during the school year and in the summer, to see if it warrants continuation of the course of the year. Know though, however, within our schools, we always operate an intervention program. So we have students that are identified as having learning gaps in either math or language arts, and they see a specific intervention teacher throughout their academic day or at some point during their academic day to focus on skills or strategies that may need remediation.
I'm sorry, one more question.
No, sorry.
The data conversation guide,
Yep.
you mentioned that it was created by our teachers. Where did the foundations of that come from?
From the consultant who's a researcher,
Okay,
our inquiry consultant who we've used for the past couple of years, and some of the research on best practices in using data to inform instruction.
thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I have a comment.
Sure.
I like the approach of taking the three goals, with respect to the district goals in general, taking the three goals that we had and expanding on them because they're excellent goals, and then adding two really good goals and certainly relevant goals now as we kind of get out of COVID, hopefully, and the issue of teacher retention. So I just think it's a very thoughtful approach.
Sure.
I just have to comment, it's the academic achievement you have listed last.
Mhm.
I don't assume you're not listing them in terms of priorities. Right, well, let me get my comment. I would have liked to have seen that listed first. And, I've articulated this before with a lot of the, the concerns or the curriculum items, with everything with the focus on the social emotional learning, the diversity, inclusion, equity, the mental health. I just wonder at what point does that start taking away from actual academic focus on the academics? These kids have a limited amount of time. There's not an infinite amount of time to teach our children. And, I see more of these curriculum requirements coming down. More, there's a culture war going on. There's going to be, right now, there's instruction on the climate and, the diversity, equity. There's going to be more. And I just wonder at what point that will lead into the actual achievements.
I would say there will never ever be a shortage of goals or initiatives. Our task as school officials will always be to balance all, and I do mean all, of the competing requirements of the state, of a district, of student needs, special education needs, ESL needs, in the best interest of our students. I would say that things like social emotional learning, creating an atmosphere that's positive and productive in a good school climate and culture is the foundation that enables learning. So, and that's what the teachers will tell you. I'm trying not to look at the teachers. I know they're back there. Part of their evaluation, when we evaluate a teacher, one of the critical domains that we evaluate is the classroom environment and the climate and culture in the environment. And I think that what the presentation speaks to is all of these areas are focal points. I don't think one trumps another. I think that they all work hand in hand together. You can't have enhanced academic achievement without having a good classroom environment. It's just not possible. You have to focus on all of it. And our task, right? School administration, the staff, the faculty, their goal is to balance it all for the enhanced learning that we wish to achieve. Just checking.
back here.
If I can add, Mr. Niger made a comment about I guess it was the first week of school, that doing the SEL section first thing in the morning
Mhm.
was really positive. Like the schedule shift, it just, brought the classroom together. They put them in a good space. And then when they jump into their math and their LA or whatever, that they're in the right space and that they're ready to learn. They're not thinking about it, well, I was in a bad mood when I got to school and now I can't really focus, and it just helps bring the classroom together. So there was a comment from Mr. Niger that I thought might be appropriate.
At some point, that kind of thing going to be assessed, where, I know it's all relatively young. Does SEL help, reduce bullying, or is there going to be, at some point, assessment of what effect it's had?
There will be. One of Mr. Tumalo's tasks this year is to look for an updated tool to measure the climate and culture of schools. We did several years ago, I want to say back in 2019, a climate culture survey that went to students, staff, and parents about the climate and culture in schools. The State Department of Education has developed the document and provides it to districts if we want to use it, although they're piloting a new tool with appropriate psychometric testing. So we've held off on giving any more assessments or even designing our own until we can find something that maybe we can use and get, and that has validity and reliability to measure some of those things. Because you're right, it should be measured, right? It's important. It should be measured. So. Can I sit down now?
I'm sorry. Can you remove the presentation so we can see who's speaking? Thank you.
Yes. Opening week. So schools opened on September 1st for our teachers, and then we welcome students back on September 6th. I'll first comment, our first day back with the teachers and the staff on September 1st was a huge success. We had welcome back addresses by members of the administration and faculty. Board members came to the event to support the staff. And to the board members at the August meeting, we approved those thank yous for the staff achieving milestones. This was an event that was so well received. And I wanted to pass along to the board the thank yous from the teachers and the appreciation that I got, because they really did recognize the fact that it was a great event, and those thank yous meant a lot to those staff achieving milestones. There was a beautiful breakfast spread from the HSA, the RTEA, and the administration. It was delicious. We ate for probably 2 days. Lots of carbs for 2 days. The first days with students were also hugely successful. Students were welcomed back to school with those wonderful yard cards donated from the HSA. The buildings were in spectacular condition. Our maintenance and custodial crew worked over the summer to ensure that we were ready for opening day, and we in fact were. As I walked around the district, students were engaged in team building exercises, the getting to know you activities. At the elementary level, students took tours of the building and learned about certain materials in their classroom. RMS students, of course, learned how to navigate their schedules and the lockers. White House and Three Bridges had their first round of back to school nights. They were last night. Saw a lot of parents. They visited with the principals, and all went well. The next round for White House and Three Bridges is tomorrow. Hollenbrook back to school night is next week along with RMS. Cafeteria options were smooth. We experienced some transportation delays as we expected, not only due to sort of ordinary operations, I can only imagine, but also the rain that we had on the first day of school. We also have a lot of new bus drivers that contribute to this as well as new routes. Many of the transportation issues have been resolved, and buses are running more on schedule now. There were some great welcome back events that are coming in the next few weeks, so make sure you check Genesis. Each Wednesday, a blast will come out. And lastly, we're starting school with approximately 1,433 students enrolled and approximately 350 staff members, both certified and non-certified. So we are off and running. School is open.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Send that to you, Jason. That's all I have for my superintendent's report, unless there's any more questions from the board.
I just have a question regarding transportation.
Yeah.
Obviously, when COVID came around, there was a lot less people riding buses. There was traffic issues on Everything middle school, backing up onto the road. What are we looking at or seeing so far this year for that?
Don't know if I want to say,
No,
because it's actually looking really good.
that's all I need to hear.
It's looking very good. Pickup and drop off at RMS has been extraordinarily smooth. Good. Anything else?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hart.
Yeah.
We are now open to the public. This is limited to action items on the agenda. Hi, you can state your name. No, just state your name.
Diana Ficina. The action item I'm referencing is under correspondence, JR email with the cell tower.
That's not actually an action item.
Oh, it's not?
No, the action starts after that.
Okay.
So we can discuss cell towers at the end of the agenda.
Should we wait till the end of the meeting?
Yes, please.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Do you want me to sign this? Yes. Yeah. I'm Melissa Viola. I'm a resident and I'm a teacher. And I came to say thank you to each and every one of you because we've been through a rough couple of years and you've made it. Morale is so high to be with the kids. It's just so normal. It's so great. The opening was it was like a pep rally in light of the difficulties we've been through the last 3 years, for someone to say, give longevity awards. We were like, what? To say, thank you for your 10 years. Thank you for your 15 years. Thank you for your 20 years, 30 there was, and 40. It was, I didn't get one. I was so excited for everybody. And that, just to look at us not as Alyssa's teacher 84, that's Alyssa Buelow. We felt like we weren't numbers that day. And Dr. Hart has such a gift to bring us all together. When he puts up his strategic plan, it does look pretty. The words look great, but his actions, if I ever had a problem, if I needed advice, I know that all my supervisors are there. And that day was just so great. All the improvements that you've made that needed to be made for years, we thank you. We thank you for the hard decisions you have to make, even though sometimes we might not agree with you. Morale is high. And I just wanted to say, let's move forward. Great things are happening, and thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? All right, moving on then to board goals. So I believe it was in our portal, the board goal document. Okay, so this was and I'll introduce Gwen Thorne now from New Jersey School Boards. But the board goals were in your portal.
So you have them. Well, thank you for inviting me. It is wonderful to be in person. I'm as excited as the teachers are. I've had 2 years, except on a TV screen. So it's really lovely to be back. I've missed Eric. I mean, I've known Eric for how long? It's nice to see you.
13.
A long time. So it is just nice to be back in person. And to those of you who I have not met, it was a pleasure to meet you. Welcome to board service. I'm Gwen Thornton from Jersey School Boards. I'm the representative for Hunterdon and Somerset County. So my goal is to assist you as you work forward in moving your district forward. And certainly your strategic plan is wonderful in terms of making real progress. Board goals focus on your processes and procedures, looking at how you function, what your focus should be, and how you can more effectively support the district in achieving its goals. And you've always had in Redington a robust series of goals. And I was looking at them today, and most of them are evergreen goals that could actually continue almost indefinitely because they are so broad in nature, but so important. So the first one that you have is around continuing to improve communications and expand community engagement with all stakeholders, broadening your efforts beyond the locality, highlighting and celebrating district accomplishments with emphasis on sustainability and greening initiatives. And congratulations on your silver award. We're looking forward to being together at a workshop and seeing those sustainability awards given to districts in person and really celebrating those accomplishments in October. So we're looking forward to that. The second is around budget parameters, effectively planning for enrollment growth, maintaining the depth, breadth, and quality of your programming, both in your curriculum and co-curricular programs, while remaining fiscally accountable to the community. I would add too, as we come out of COVID, which is a wonderful piece, and we finally, I believe, have arrived at that point, we're also going to see the end of ESSA funding. And that's going to have a significant impact on the fiscal operations of school districts moving forward. So in addition to talking about fiscal accountability, I think also thinking about fiscal sustainability is going to become critically important in districts as you think moving forward, absent that kind of federal support that we've all enjoyed in districts across the state. And it's going to have an impact as it ramps down. As much as it has an impact and was wonderful when it ramped up, it's not going to last forever. So that might be something you may want to think about adding in terms of your finance goal, is making sure that as you're planning for the future and developing your annual budgets, you're making sure that they are sustainable over time. And that as you add initiatives, no matter how valuable they are sustainable over time, especially in light of your growing population. To continuing and upgrade safety and security measures, obviously Uvalde was horrific, and that brings to that goal to the forefront ever again, that we need to continually be mindful of increasing safety and security in all schools across the state and across the country. The fourth goal was around integration of SEL, social emotional learning, across the curriculum, providing equitable access to mental health supports for students and staff as needed as we return to the classrooms full time. And the last one was around completing a new strategic plan for the district, which I believe you have accomplished. So that can come off of your goals as complete, and that's certainly wonderful to have that strategic plan in place. It makes your annual goal setting that much easier. But I need to hear from you what you are thinking as a board you would like the board to focus on that may be in addition or different from what you have here.
Well, I thought first we should review of the 4 goals, what we did and to achieve those goals. I thought it'd be good for us to, go over those if that's okay with everyone.
I think that would be valuable not only for you, but for your community to hear how you have worked to accomplish those. So we can start with the first one around communication and community engagement.
Right. So we released a new website last year. I have a couple of ideas, so anybody feel free to jump in. And I did kind of meet with Jason and Jonathan to give them credit. So there was a new website. And in our communications plan, our annual communications plan that goes out to the Bennington News, that should be at least 2 of those that come from board members or administrators and not just staff. As you mentioned, Silver Award for Sustainability. And importantly to note today, the continued hybrid format for attendance. We even accept public comment over the Google Meet, and involvement with our township committee. I guess I'll keep going unless anybody wants to add.
Well, I'd say that the Green Committee has been an opportunity for the community to interact with the board and the operations of the district. One example physically is the bioswale, the project that's being completed at 3 Bridges as we speak right now. I guess Jason can speak to the current status of it. But there are members of the administration, the board, the township, various NGOs, individuals. That's been a truly collaborative effort. There was funding from a number of sources. It really is, it speaks to partnerships. It's really an exemplary project that we should all be proud of. And it's not only going to benefit just as an exemplary project, but water quality. I mean, there are many, many benefits to it. hopefully we'll continue projects of that nature, working with individuals, the township, et cetera.
Great, yeah, that's very true. Thank you. The next one regarding the budget, I like what you mentioned about fiscal sustainability. So we continue to provide enrollment and housing updates throughout the year. And specifically, and in regards to the personnel and finance committees, this school year, we increased faculty and maintained the 2% cap. That was a big deal. It's huge. But we are technically below capped.
That's even better.
Moving on, the safety and security. So we did review our safety plan that was developed 3 years ago. And we do have some ongoing work going into the school year that we're working on. But that remains confidential in nature.
Obviously.
And the SEL learning, as you mentioned, we did approve the district curriculum in November. We also supported the Avidium pilot that was demonstrated earlier this year by Dr. Higgins. And we also have an employee assistance program.
So what are the board's thoughts about continuing some of these as sort of broader goals and continuing to work on them? I don't think you need to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
Unless there are other areas that you see as potentially in need of focus for the board to support your district.
Right, and I like how you referred to these as evergreen, that these are things that we'll always be working on, even if they're not in here as a goal.
But I don't think you can
Right.
ever over communicate, right? I
Right.
don't think we can ever have too many partnerships with our communities in terms of providing opportunities for kids. And you were talking about a capstone project in 8th grade, for example, that would involve, service, and which would involve the community and NGOs and those kinds of things. So, I think there are components that every year that you can pull from these goals and make them real.
Right, so I agree with that. And so we met in the summer during a board retreat, and the 3 things that came up revolved around negotiations, advocacy, and academic achievement. And I can read off if you'd like what we were. Okay, so for negotiations, we'd like to settle an agreement with the RTEA before the end of the year.
Before June,
I think June.
Yeah.
I mean.
just wanted, when you say end of the year, I didn't think you meant every year. So I just wanted to click, that's why I was there.
Yes, you're right. The end of the
We're
school- end of the school year.
Next year.
Yes, June of 2023.
Yes.
I believed you meant, but I just wanted to.
Yes. The advocacy, engaging in activities that advocate for our community's needs.
Can you say more of what you were thinking in that regard?
As far as legislation, there's a lot of things that are going now. The health plan, we just had a resolution last month regarding that. There's a lot of,
Increase in rates.
yes. Those are things that we should be involved in because it directly affects our taxpayers and our staff.
And so I would encourage you also in that regard, in that advocacy for public education in school districts. Certainly one of the ways to do that is through adoption of a resolution that would go before our delegate assembly that then becomes our marching orders for the advocacy that we do down the street under the Golden Dome. And so if that's, that may be one action step that you could take in thinking about that kind of advocacy, because it does place an undue burden on public schools. It's going to be incredibly difficult. It's not something anybody budgeted for in April, that kind of increase.
Right.
So,
And that's being voted on tomorrow?
As far as I know now, I haven't read the clips today yet, but my understanding is that it was going to be voted on tomorrow. That doesn't mean it will happen.
Right.
But I haven't seen anything to the contrary.
We did a resolution back in August, and then we sent it out, we sent that to you, we sent it to
Okay,
appropriate individuals,
yes,
but yeah,
then,
that's.
then it would be. I'm just mentioning it to the board
Yeah, no.
because I always think about that when boards start talking about advocacy. It's, the delegate assembly is a wonderful opportunity, you know, to have your district put something forth that will benefit all school districts.
Right.
As a way to advocate for public education.
And then lastly, academic achievement, more from the board's perspective of aligning resources, right? Creating support and structures for a sharp, clear focus on academic achievement.
I understand the aligning resources, so I'm assuming you mean making sure that in your budget, you're appropriately funding the co-curricular and curricular and co-curricular programs. But what kind of structure, can you just reread that? Just let me hear it again.
Creating support and structures for a sharp, clear focus on academic achievement.
Just to help your community understand and me, what kind of structures were you envisioning?
Well, I think that just,
Or what do you mean? That's all.
well, it's just aligning the resources in general, whether it's, you know, that we need a program or, you know, if there's a barrier that needs to be broken down that is above the level of the superintendent, that the board has a commitment to
Advocate.
advocate.
Okay, yeah, no, I just wanted to, it wasn't a criticism, I just wanted to be clear on what it was you were thinking.
No, I appreciate that because, you know, sometimes the goals sound arbitrary.
Well, it didn't sound arbitrary, it just sounds really broad, and I just
Right.
wanted, I mean, but that obviously is the role of the board, is to ensure that, you know, your students make academic growth. So, do you want to, can you send those to me and I will incorporate them along with the fiscal sustainability in that fiscal goal that you have? And return them to you and then you can review them and see if that meets your expectations.
Does anybody else have any comments?
I know in the board retreat, we spoke a lot about communication and transparency.
Mhm.
So even if these were like our top three focus, I wouldn't want to lose that as a continued goal for
Right.
improvement. Because I feel like we've added a lot as a board to improve communication, but there's always more.
Mhm.
And I think as we focus on these other things, communicating will be even more important as things change or sharing what the district is accomplishing.
Right, along those lines, that last goal you mentioned, we talked about the principals making presentations from their school with respect to the academic achievement. So it's more specific, so we can actually see the progress that's been made.
Right, so it goes to that transparency and communication piece, because it exists already. The achievement, I was saying. Okay.
Right.
Any additional thoughts? I need that easy button. Thank you so much for inviting me. For those of you who've never been to workshop in person because you're relatively new board members, if you have an opportunity, it is a wonderful training event. It's the largest one for educators in the state of New Jersey. It's only 3 days. If you have an opportunity and you can see your way clear from work to take some time to attend, it really is a wonderful, and you will be celebrated for your Silver Sustainability Award as well, which is a very nice ceremony for all of you to be able to attend and observe. So thank you very much. If you need anything, I spend my days talking to board members, responding to questions. That is what I'm here for. You can email me, you can call me. I don't share what your questions are with other board members or your administration, so that especially for new folks who these processes may be new to, we're here to assist. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Okay, moving on, correspondence. We had an email from JF regarding the health curriculum and email from JR regarding the cell tower. Moving on to board action. Approval of administration reports. Can I get a motion to adopt 1.01? Second, Camille. Are there any questions? Not hearing any. Can I get a roll call, please?
Ms. Behrman,
Yeah.
Ms. Fiore,
Yes.
Mr. Peach,
Yes.
Mrs. Barborski,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace,
Yes.
Ms. Wolf,
Yes.
Mrs. Rowland,
Yes.
Dr. Cerciolo,
Yes.
Ms. Campbell.
Yes.
Yes.
Approval of minutes. Can I get a motion to adopt 2.01 and 2.02?
Motion, Randy?
Second.
Are there any questions? Not hearing any. Can I get a roll call, please?
Ms. Behrman,
Yes.
Ms. Fiore,
Yes.
Mr. Peach,
Yes.
Mrs. Barborski,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace,
Yes.
Ms. Wolf,
Abstain.
Mrs. Rowland,
Yes.
Dr. Cerciolo,
Yes.
Ms. Campbell.
Abstain.
Passes.
Moving on to finance and facilities. We did not have a committee report, correct? That's correct. Can I get a motion to adopt 3.01 and 3.06?
Motion, Randy?
Second time.
Are there any questions on the action items? Not hearing any. Can I get a roll call, please?
Ms. Behrman,
Yes.
Ms. Fiore,
Yes.
Mr. Peach,
Yes.
Ms. Barborski,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace,
Yes.
Mrs. Wolf,
Yes.
Mrs. Rowland,
Yes.
Dr. Cerciolo,
Yes.
Ms. Campbell.
Yes.
Passes.
Moving on to education technology. Can I get a motion to adopt 4.01 to 4.07?
Second, Camille.
And we had a committee report.
Yes, we did. I hope that you can hear me okay. Is that thumbs up?
Yes.
Okay, good. Trying out a new headset here, so. Okay, so the Ed Tech Committee met on September 8th. The first item on our agenda was diversity, equity, inclusion, leadership training. Mr. Tumalo gave a report to the committee on the workshop held at the end of August for the leadership team and teacher leaders. Facilitated by a consultant from the company Powerful Communications, the group participated in activities designed to build community that could then be brought to staff and ultimately to students. The leadership team will be meeting in the fall to plan a timeline for sharing out the learned activities and create next steps that align with the year 2 DEI goals in the strategic plan. Next, we talked about curriculum revisions. Sarah Pouch discussed the following curriculum for board approval: computer science K-2 and computer science 3-5. The changes overview for those two: these are new curriculum to meet the new NJSLS for computer science. In grades 4 and 5, the standards are covered in the innovation and design curriculum. These will replace the technology curriculum from 2014. Next, we discussed coding 1 and 2. These are new to meet the NJSLS computer science standards. Coding 1 replaces grade 7 coding design curriculum, and coding 2 replaces grade 8 coding and app design. I just want to note here that coding 1 and 2 are electives, and that the computer science grade 6 that we approved in our August board meeting is a required course. It's a 1 semester required course. So I know there were a few questions about that. I wanted to clarify, but coding 1 and 2 are electives. Next, we reviewed the health curriculum for grades 6 through 8. The committee reviewed the draft curriculum and provided extensive feedback to administrators. Board approval for health grades K to 8 has been tabled until the October 11th meeting, so the district can hold a parent guardian information night on September 29th at 6:30. Next, Dr. Brown discussed the following curriculum: information literacy. These are updates to the introduction, units, and standards sections in order to align with the new standards coming into effect in September. Spanish grades K to 5, Spanish 6, 7, 8, Chinese grades 6, 7, 8, and French grades 6, 7, 8. These were all revised to include an updated introduction, new world language standards, compliance with LBGT and disabilities, Holocaust and Amistad laws, and revisions to interdisciplinary computer science and career sections. Next, we discussed field trips for 22-23. Dr. Hart shared the list of field trips with the committee, noting that more will come up for board approval as the school year progresses. And I just also want to do a side note that these aren't a full commitment that all these field trips will happen. This is just sort of the running list. And like we said, more would come online. Next, we discussed Temple University study. Dr. Hart was asked to once again help promote a study by a Temple University professor and doctoral students relating to student learning of fractions during COVID and its correlation to student success in algebra. Last year, about 20 to 25 Reddington parents and students participated in this optional study. The committee saw no issue with advertising a second year for study participants through the posting of a flyer and sending a Genesis blast. Next, we discussed the district assessment calendar. Dr. Hart shared the testing schedule and the letter that will go out to parents and guardians regarding language arts, math, and science assessments. And all this information will be posted on the district website. And then we scheduled our next meeting for October 4th.
Are there any questions on the minutes or the action items?
I had a question on the new health curriculum. Is there going to be further opportunities to revise it after we hear from parents?
Yeah, board approval isn't until October 11th, so if there's something that comes up in the parent meeting, we can go back and revisit it.
Thank you.
I have a question on the field trips and a comment. One, I was just so happy to see field trips back and such a robust opportunity for all the students, both to complement their education and also to have some fun. Cost to parent, I just want to clarify, are those estimates at this time? And
Yeah, we even changed some today. We got updated numbers today. Yeah, they're approximations. Yeah.
are they going down or up, the updates? You don't know?
I know that the secretaries in green worked on them today. I know that there's some adjustments and I don't want to misspeak.
Okay.
But there might be some that yeah, it's not there because I don't recall exactly.
Okay, so just to clarify, Carol, for us to approve it, we're approving that these are field trips we may take. We're not committing to a price. So
Right.
if there's an opportunity for that to come down or if they find
Right.
different discounts.
And does it say approximate cost to parents?
No, I think I should change that. But
Yes.
that was my conversation for another conversation for another day of like approximate costs for parents. But yes, it's approximate. We do our best gathering of research over the course of the summer. And sometimes things fluctuate. Sometimes there are different busing costs regarding how many buses we need.
Whether it can be an internal bus or not.
Right. Sometimes there was like a food option that you could get or a special show that you could see that maybe one building is going to go see the special additional show for an additional admission or not. So it's approximate.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. Keep me on it.
Keep it. Good job.
Any other questions or comments? All right, not hearing any. Can I get a roll call, please?
Ms. Bevan,
Yes.
Ms. Fiore,
Yes.
Ms. Beach,
Yes.
Ms. Barbarosky,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace,
Yes.
Ms. Wolf,
Yes.
Mr. Zeron,
Yes.
Dr. Sosial.
Yes.
Ms. Amble.
Yes.
Passed.
Moving on to personnel, can I get a motion to adopt 5.01, 5.14?
So move Tom.
Second, Carol.
And we did not have a committee report. Are there any questions or comments on the action items? Oh, is that 5? We're on 5, right? I did have a comment that it looked like there were some new clubs. On that I saw the list of club advisors, it looked like they had some new clubs, so that was exciting. All right, not hearing anything. Can I get a roll call, please?
Ms. Bevan,
Yes.
Ms. Fiore,
Yes.
Mr. Beach,
Yes.
Ms. Barbarosky.
Yes.
Mr. Wallace,
Yes.
Ms. Wolf,
Yes.
Mr. Zeron,
Yes.
Dr. Sosial,
Yes.
Ms. Amble.
Yes.
Passed.
Moving on to communications, can I get a motion to adopt 6.01?
So moved, Tom.
Second, Carolyn.
And so the committee report was read in last month? Okay. So are there any questions or comments on the action item? Not hearing any. Can I get a roll call, please?
Ms. Bevan,
Yes.
Ms. Fiore,
Yes.
Mr. Beach,
Yes.
Ms. Bogowski,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace,
Yes.
Ms. Wolf,
Yes.
Mrs. Rowland,
Yes.
Dr. Susiella,
Yes.
Ms. Campbell.
Yes.
Passes.
All right, moving on to unfinished business. As Gwen Thornton mentioned, we have the NJSBA workshop, which is October 24th to 26th. And the awards ceremony will be on Tuesday for Reddington. So I think maybe Beth is going just for the day on Tuesday. I'll be going Monday, Tuesday. And I think Jason mentioned that you can do your governance training. So if you have to do governance too, you can do that in person. I believe those are on Wednesday. But, check the agenda. But you can do the in-person training for governance at school
I was
boards.
gonna ask if there's a training on one day. Required training.
I believe so.
Okay.
They have an
I can't
agenda.
stay,
you can
there's no
look
way I
at.
can stay over.
That's the fun part.
There's usually
There's no way.
one or
If
two.
it's one day, maybe I'll do it.
They sent us the agenda, so you should have it in your email and you can
Okay.
look and see.
I can still sign up for it. I can
Mhm.
just,
Is there any other unfinished business?
Carrie saying the award ceremony for the sustainable jersey is Tuesday, October 25th.
Yes.
Check my calendar if I can make that.
I want to say like midday, like 12:45 to 1:30 or something like that.
Yeah, it was like later in the noon hour, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, I have a feeling I have something that day, but I need to check. Otherwise, I'll make it.
Thank you. New business from the board. I had a thought driving over here today. Should we get a head count for the 9/29 meeting? Because if we're gonna have a quorum, then we would have to make it a board meeting, potentially. We would have to discuss that, but we can cross that bridge.
You should avoid a quorum if you're discussing school district related actions.
So in the 10-minute videos that we watched today, one of them said if you were going to have a quorum, then you can just turn it into a board meeting and send public notice. So we have 2 weeks as of today, which is why I'm bringing it up now.
Do you think board members as parents could all show up at RMS back to school night?
Not in the same room, though.
as long as we don't talk to each other.
Yeah, it's long as no one talking. Don't talk for business. If you're talking about personal business, then it would not count as quorum. So you could hypothetically show up. But to your point, I have seen that done in the past.
We can reserve you seats in different corners of the.
Can we ask questions of the presenter?
I would say that if you're doing that and there's 5 or more board members present, that would be considered probably a quorum action.
Even
Can
as
we
a
do a
parent,
straw poll
even
of
if she does
who
as a
thinks is
parent?
gonna come? That's 4,
I'm undecided.
but so.
So the way it's been done in the past is what you do is you advertise the meeting to start, say, 30 minutes prior. We would actually have like a setup, maybe informally start the meeting and then
Just public session, right? Like
Correct.
kind of make a public session and
then
let the meeting go as it goes, and then we just close it at the end, right? So we could just do that, and then it doesn't limit anybody if they, are able to come and want to come.
I think that's very cautious of the board. You could do that, advertise it as a board meeting. And if we want to be on cautious side, especially if you want to ask questions.
I'm not gonna ask questions.
I was gonna say, if you need someone to bow out, I've been through all of the planning, ed tech stuff, so I'm happy to not attend if that makes it easier.
I didn't see, was her hand raised? Was your hand raised, Beth?
Yeah, I don't know if you heard me. I said, if you need someone to bow out, I'm well versed in all of this, so can easily just not attend, and if that helps with not being a quorum.
I'll tell you right in. I
Okay,
think that'll help.
okay. We'll just,
Because if it's 4, you can ask questions.
okay. All right. All right, any other new business?
I mentioned two quick things.
Sure.
I just wanted to welcome the board at our October 11th meeting. We're going to start at 6 p.m. We talked about that in August, but we'll start at 6 because health curriculum is on the agenda and Ms. Couch will present the final documents. And we have NJSLA assessments that are being presented as well. And Jason just sent me word today that I just wanted to announce to you, we're going to work on a press release for this, that Three Bridges School was named the quote, best in New Jersey farm to school for the 21-22 school year in collaboration with Mashio's Food Service, which means they really focused on opportunities to grow and harvest fresh food and actually serve it in the cafeteria.
Oh, that's great.
So, which is kind of cool through hydroponic gardens that Dr. Higgins purchased through, I want to say, a grant, maybe a Sustainable Jersey grant. Props to Jody. So we're working on just a press release. I'm a little backed up with press releases between Sustainable Jersey, this, and just ordinary press releases. We got to get a lot of stuff out. It's very cool.
Awesome.
Very cool.
I'm sorry, what program gave that award? Did you say?
Department of Agriculture,
The state?
State of New Jersey.
Wow.
Only school in the state.
Wow.
Needs to put it for.
And we're going to plan a little celebration in the cafeteria one day for the kids with, balloons, a special menu, and some other things down at Three Bridges. That's it.
Great, thank you. All right, moving on, we are now open to the public for anything on or off the agenda. Ms. Patina?
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience, I appreciate it.
Of course, yeah. So I'm Diana Pacina. I am here tonight because I noticed that in the BOE minutes from 8/23, the board authorized the use of an RFP process for the procurement and development of a cell tower on district property. And after further inquiry, it's my understanding that the tower is going to be placed on the Hollenbrook School and Reddington Middle School campus. So I just wanted to take a few minutes to share some information that will hopefully provide you with an understanding of why your authorization of the RFP is concerning to me. So I'm just going to start with a couple facts that I gathered. So cell phone towers have wireless antennas that emit radio frequency radiation. It's also known as RFR. And when a tower is close to our school, daily exposures to these radiation emissions are nonstop all day because they cannot be turned off. In 2011, RFR was classified as a Class B possible carcinogen by the World Health Organization's International Agency for Research on Cancer. Since that date, the published peer-reviewed scientific evidence has significantly increased. That was in 2011, a long time ago. Now, many scientists believe, due to the weight of available peer-reviewed studies, the evidence supports the conclusion that radiofrequency radiation should be regarded as a human carcinogen. In other words, scientists agree that the type of radiation a cell tower emits causes cancer. Scientists highly recommend children's exposure to this type of radiation be reduced. They've even written letters to school policymakers urging them to protect children. Published peer-reviewed science has linked cell tower radiation to harmful effects. Examples that have been documented in scientific research include increased cancer risk, cellular stress, headaches, sleep issues, genetic damage, memory deficits, impacts to the nervous system, and changes to the reproductive system. Can you imagine forcing our children whose bodies are just entering their reproductive years to be exposed to radiation that we know has been documented as harmful to their reproduction. Many of these biological effects that I listed have been documented at very low intensities, comparable to what people might experience within 500 feet of a cell tower. Children, as opposed to adults, are the most vulnerable to cell phone radiation. Or cell tower radiation. They absorb it deeper in their brains and bodies due to the fact that their brain and organ systems are more sensitive to environmental stressors. Even if the radiation were the same as in adults, the effects on children are far more serious, or can be far more serious. There are many studies on this, and I would be happy to send you all any studies. The American Academy of Pediatrics former president, Robert W. Block, wrote a letter to the FCC urging them to review their radiofrequency radiation exposure guidelines to protect children. Here is a quote from that letter. Children are not little adults and are disproportionately impacted by all environmental exposures, including cell phone radiation. In fact, according to the International Agency for Research on Cancer, when experienced by children, the average RFR energy deposition is 2 times higher in the brain and 10 times higher in the bone marrow of the skull compared by adults, end quote. Additionally, I'd like you to consider that cell tower radiation is classified as high risk by insurance companies. Insurance companies do not insure for long-term damages from the electromagnetic radiation emitted by these towers. Cell tower radiation is repeatedly classified as high risk and compared to asbestos in insurance white papers. Please also consider that cell tower compounds contain hazardous equipment, such as diesel fuel and lead acid batteries. There have been recorded accidents where these tanks have leaked, polluting the surrounding area. Something else that I'd like you to know is that the International Association of Firefighters has officially opposed cell towers on its stations since 2004, after a study reported neurological damage in firefighters with cell antennas on their stations. So just to be clear, a cell tower cannot be placed on a fire station that's part of the IAFF, their union, due to health implications found in a medical study. But we are considering putting one on our school. There are many schools who have chosen to take the opposite approach to cell towers. The Los Angeles Unified School District has banned cell towers on their school campuses. They are not alone. In fact, the list of communities that no longer allow cell towers on or near schools continues to grow. I can follow up with the full list that's available online, but just to name a few, Scarsdale, New York has an ordinance restricting cell towers from within 500 feet of a school. Copiague, New York restricts towers from 1,500 feet of a school. Montgomery County, Maryland, school policy prohibits cell towers on elementary schools, and the list goes on. So it devastates me to think that so many communities across our great nation have come together to bravely protect the most vulnerable citizens in our community, our children. And ours is exploring a decision that we know has health risks. Not only are there those schools who have banned cell towers, but there are also many examples of schools who decided to move forward with cell towers on their property and have since removed them. One example, which has been in the mainstream news on CBS, the Daily Mail, is Weston Elementary School. Shortly after implementing a cell tower at that elementary school, 8 children were diagnosed with cancer, and Sprint made the decision to shut down their cell tower on that school property. I can't imagine what the mothers of those 8 children went through. And so until each of you can look a mom in our community straight in the face and say that you know with 100% certainty that placing a cell phone tower on our school property has no health risk whatsoever to her children, I implore you to stop the RFP process and please revisit the issue. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Ms. David Nader?
Yes, thank you. What is the motivation for putting the cell tower on the campus?
Well, this is a public comment. So if you can make your statement.
Well, it's a trade-off. What is the trade-off that the school is getting by placing this on? That's my question. What is the trade-off that the school is going to get by putting, as you so eloquently stated, there's a known health risk that other educational institutions, just like yours, have deemed too risky to expose their children to. Why would we do it? And what was the benefit? What was the motivation for doing it for in the first place? It's a question. Is the school district being paid? Is it a fundraising issue?
This is a comment section, so it's not a question and answer, just in order to have time for everybody to have time to speak. But we have noted your question and can respond in due time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other comments?
Lisa Santangelo from Reddington Township. First, I just wanted to let everyone know that the New Jersey Education Association has created a tool for the association leaders. It's called Center for Honesty in Education. They are aiming to combat disinformation and dangerous rhetoric, including book banning, anti-inclusion, or any problems you are facing in the local school district. The association members just need to fill out a form. Their goal is to, quote, discredit bad actors who seek to politicize public schools, end quote. Sounds like the New Jersey Education Association wants to infringe on our rights to freedom of speech. It's interesting because it doesn't apply to reporting on them for disinformation, only the parents. So if a parent disagrees with the school, you could be reported. Moving on, I wanted to know if you could confirm that a questionnaire went out from the teachers to the students asking them to list their preferred pronouns and when they wanted to use them. Always, only in private, in front of peers, but not in front of family. I believe some of the 7th graders reported this to their parents, but wanted to confirm with you. I've seen some of the other ones from Central High School. A comment was made at the last board meeting that we should just trust the teachers. Are you referring to the teachers that are okay with keeping information like minors changing their genders from their parents? Are these the same trusted adults that you are urging these kids to identify with in the new curriculum? I know that this is in compliance with the transgender student policy 5756, where no parental consent is required for a minor in the school to change their identity, nor is a medical diagnosis required to make such a life-altering decision. However, I have the original law that Governor Christie signed in 2017, which is a one-page document. Interesting how your policy is 7 pages. Your acceptance of the state's guidelines took a lot of liberties than the actual law. Nowhere in this law does it state to leave out the parents from this decision-making process. And as I've mentioned in the past, there are at least 24 schools in New Jersey, if not more, that don't have this type of policy and actually work with the parents. This district has chosen to accept to exclude parents from this life-altering decision and instead have teachers guide these minors. I know, Dr. Hart, that your reasoning is that parents can be abusive to these kids, but does that justify excluding all parents? What about the teachers? Should we use the same argument when we take a look at that example? Just this past August in Robbinsville, New Jersey, a teacher and assistant coach was charged with sexual assault of a minor. Another New Jersey teacher had sexual relations with a student and was charged with 4 counts of second-degree sexual assault. What about the middle school teacher who was charged with sexual assault of a minor, possession of child porn, and photography of a child in a sex act? And he did this to 6 minors in total. Another gym teacher and coach charged with molesting a minor, and an elementary teacher who pled guilty to making a perverted recording of a minor with a hidden camera in a bathroom to create child porn, and the list goes on. These are recent cases in New Jersey. There are over 300 cases this year alone of teachers across the country who were charged and or pled guilty to similar offenses. I'm not saying this is happening in this school, but it is happening, and it's happening frequently. And now we're asking teachers to keep a secret with a minor from their parents And let's see what happens with the over-sexualized curriculum versus traditional sex ed. Dr. Hart, you stated it is possible for a parent to harm a child, even if no proof exists. The parent must be excluded if the minor requests it. As I just noted, it is also possible for a teacher to harm a student. Why allow teachers the benefit of the doubt and not the child's own parent? Let's recap. Parents have been called domestic terrorists. Now we may be placed on a list simply for disagreeing with the school district. Parents have been cut out of a life-altering decision in their child's lives because parents will harm their kids, but the schools are the ones advocating for puberty blockers and surgery. The new learning standards no longer refer to us as parents, but family members, and minors are encouraged to select a trusted adult in the school to discuss anything sexual, and these are the same people allowing children to keep secrets from their parents. I'm not sure why we can't just teach our kids reading, writing, and math, the basics of education, and leave the rest to the parents, which, by the way, your own policy 9200 states that parents have the ultimate responsibility for their children. I agree. The transgender policy is in conflict with that policy, so I would ask the board again to reconsider that policy and add parental consent required. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment. Mrs. Betterman, I think we had some to read into the record from.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to turn the comments on, so I'm behind, but, hold on. It said, I have a blocker. Justina Ryan and Julie Saracina have raised their hands. So you want to do them first and then read it? What do you want to?
We could do that.
Because I think they have some of the comments that are in.
Okay. I don't know if it's in order, so I guess Justina Ryan.
Hi, Justina Ryan here. So at a previous meeting, I had asked about enhancing the cell service at RMS. My intent was not to install a cell tower, as there are other options. I had followed up with an email to the Board of Ed and to Dr. Hart, but never received a definitive answer. So I'm asking two questions tonight. Number one, will there be a cell tower installed on RMS property? That is a simple yes or no answer. If the answer is yes, do you understand the health risks associated with a cell tower to the students and the staff? I will also add, as I did in my email, that many towns have ordinances against cell towers on school properties. Clearly, there must be a reason for that. And the other parent also stated many of those reasons. My other question is a completely different topic. I understand that there was a questionnaire given to some 7th graders regarding pronouns. Was this a school-wide questionnaire? Is this something that's tied into the new health curriculum that is not yet approved? Is this something that is to benefit the student? Is it to be reported to the state? What is the reason for it? Thank you.
Thank you, Justina. Julie Saracina.
Hi, it's Julie Flores. So I know that the board strives to have open communications and good relations with the parents and the public. So I am disappointed that the board did not respond to Mr. Nader's question. I do urge the board to look for a way for the public and the parents to have an open forum and exchange of information at these meetings. I think we've heard in the recent comments just made that there is a strong desire on the part of parents to be in the know and to be well informed and to have their questions answered. There are a number of divisive topics on hand right now. And so for the upcoming meeting on the sex ed agenda topic in a week or so, I do really encourage anyone who is facilitating and coordinating that meeting to really allow for an open dialogue of the parents and to answer the questions that are asked. And so again, I encourage that, as well as more of an open forum for question and response at these meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to read the comments in now?
I can do that, sure. Okay. Some of them, like I said, I missed it. They were asking about the removing the presentation so they could see the speakers. So that was my fault. I'm sorry. David Nader, though, around that time asked, who is the consultant that you are referencing? I think, Dr. Hart, that was in the initial presentation that you gave during your superintendent report. Did you just want to?
The inquiry.
That was the inquiry consultant.
Yeah.
A woman named Devonna Stevick.
Okay.
We've used her for 3 years now, 4 years.
What organization?
She's a researcher from Gettysburg College.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, then Caroline Sherwood asked about moving the presentation. Okay, so Julie, Saracina said, a cell tower seems out of line with all the green efforts and goals underway. I do not support it and share the speaker's concerns. Then David Nader said, why are we putting this cell tower on the campus? What is the motivation? That was the same question that he asked himself. And then Carol Ann Sherwood said, wow, I also strongly oppose. I'm assuming that means the cell tower. Thank you to this parent for her great research and concern for our children. When will you address this comment and the questions that come along with it? I'll let you guys handle that after I read the last one. And the last one is David Nader. I'm sorry, could you repeat the name of the consultant? I'll turn it over.
That's right now. The inquiry consultant, is that the one we're talking about?
I think so.
Devonna Stevick.
Are there any other comments, public comments before we close?
Just make sure. Okay, I'm good.
Okay, then that closes the public comment section. I will point out that the reason why we don't engage in the Q&A during public comment section is so that everyone has time to speak. There's business that has to get brought through, and if there are people that are waiting, for example, somebody's approval of getting hired, if they're waiting to hear the result of that vote, then they might have to stay up until midnight as we let everybody get through if we did it in the wrong section of the agenda. Limiting the time, having the questions at the end, giving everyone in the public their opportunity to speak and not engaging in a Q&A. And if there are questions that we can answer, we do so at the end of the comment section after it's been closed, because that enables it to stay your section of the meeting to answer those questions. Is there anything you wanted to add or respond to?
I can, if you would like me to. I can go quickly.
Sure.
Yeah. I am not aware of a survey that was sent out to 7th grade students in regard to preferred pronouns. That doesn't mean that it didn't happen. It doesn't mean that it did happen. I'm just not aware of it. So I'll have to follow up with Mr. Charleston to see if something like that went out. I don't know if it was all students. I don't know if it was any students. I can't confirm that. I'll say that the cell tower has been a conversation that was generated, to the best of my knowledge, prior to my arrival in Reddington, and it came up at a parent forum after the Parkland shooting back in 2018 as something that the Board of Education should investigate because, as some of you may know, sitting here, cell service is pretty limited in our buildings, particularly on this property. In terms of safety and security, this has been an idea that has been engaged with the parent forum and discussed at the Board of Education level for the past 5 years now, potentially. And the RFP process is to investigate the feasibility of something like this. Mrs. Ficina, I'll let you know what the research that you have. Just send me an email and attach all of that. I'm a lot of things. I'm an educational psychologist. I'm an expert in elementary education. I'm not an expert in cell towers. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a big doctor. So please, I mean, if there's any information, I've had to be a meteorologist and an epidemiologist a lot in the past. So if there's any information that you have, Mrs. Ficina, please send it to me.
I would
I'd
be
happy
happy
to review
to.
it.
Yes,
Just send it
and
over.
quite frankly, I mean, I was surprised to know that the Board of Education was handling this issue. Obviously, you're all very qualified in the realm of education, and that's why you were voted in. But I have to tell you, just to be honest, like when I think about voting for someone for the Board of Education, I don't think about their qualifications on a cell phone tower. I almost think of like the Board of Health or environmental issues or different things that I would think, well, that has to do with a cell phone tower. I don't think of it in terms of education. So it is funny that you mentioned that, and thank you for saying that, Dr. Hart. And I hope that everyone does as much research as possible and involves whatever experts you can, aside from a cell phone tower procurement salesperson or whoever that might be.
I understand. Newsflash, we're experts in everything and anything that involves building operations. I mean, we have to be experts in everything. And we hire folks. We have a school physician, we have board attorneys, we have counsel. I mean, there are people that assist us with this, which is why we're not doing it alone, right? That's what the RFP process was for.
And also the location, right? There's.
Yeah, I apologize, Mrs. Ryan, if you felt that my response was inadequate. I can't answer the question if the cell tower will be placed on school property because we haven't even investigated the feasibility for it. So I do apologize, but I answered the question the best I could and provided as much background as I possibly could in my email. If it's the email that I believe it is, I think the board also received the email and received my response as well. That I made every attempt to try to answer the questions. The reason really, I mean, I think I highlighted this, but the reason why this was even looked into was because it did come up several years ago after an incident of a shooting on a campus. It was generated from a parent forum, and the simple answer to the cell tower is there's a poor cell reception, and for reasons of safety and security, we thought to look into options to improve cell reception. I'm missing things. I wasn't able to write everything down.
Dr. Hart, if you would share that, the research that's been done.
Sure.
It is, I mean, certainly not my area of expertise as well. But there are, in many things, there are chronic and acute risks, you know, for us, the health of our students. And we want to make sure that there is the ability to communicate immediately. And that was one of the risks that we did face here. But if there are chronic risks with low-level radiation, which it's something that we should consider and find out what the latest research is on that and determine whether there is new and compelling peer-reviewed research on that matter. This is a determination that we as a district should make. Maybe something that the Green Committee should look at, but it certainly merits an investigation.
I firmly believe that this Board of Education has the best of intentions for students. I firmly think that anything and everything that we do here sitting at this table is to enhance the experience for children. And if that means making our buildings more safe, I think we need to educate ourselves on what the impact of a cell tower is. That means providing students an opportunity to be their authentic, true selves and have a place where they truly belong. I believe that we should do that as well. So I think that this board has the best of intentions. I think our staff, our teachers and administration have the best of intentions as well. So we will do our due diligence on each and every one of the number of issues that are before us.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can I get a motion to move into executive session in accordance with the Sunshine Law to discuss legal matters for approximately 30 minutes, at which time the board expects to return to public session where action shall not be taken. The matters discussed will be made public if and when the circumstances requiring confidentiality no longer exist. However, it is not presently known when such circumstances will exist. Can I get the motion?
So moved, Con.
Second, Carolyn.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Beck?
Yes.
Ms. Fiore?
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Beach?
Yes.
Ms. Bargosi?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Ms. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Zerline?
Yes.
Dr. Sosial?
Yes.
Ms. Ample?
Yes. 8:34. Thank you, everyone, for coming.